Which World War I pilot fought completely alone against 7 British aces, yet still pushed them to the brink of defeat? Imagine this. A lone German fighter circles high above Flanders. Opposite him, 7 of Britain's top fighter aces, all attacking at once. But instead of running, he dives straight into the fight. For minutes, he defies the overwhelming odds, pulling off breathtaking maneuvers, hitting back with deadly bursts, until bullets finally tear him down. The name of this young man, Werner Voss, a fighter ace who died at just 20 years old and became a legend. In this video, we tell the story of Werner Voss, the lone wolf of the skies. We'll follow his meteoric rise, his victories, his charisma, and of course, his legendary final battle against 7 of Britain's finest pilots. Werner Voss was born on April 13, 1897, in Krefeld, Germany, the son of a successful factory owner. He grew up in a comfortable middle-class home. From an early age, he was adventurous, athletic, and full of energy. Friends described him as humorous, independent, and endlessly curious. When war broke out in 1914, the 17-year-old volunteered immediately. At first, he served with a cavalry regiment, but the grim reality of trench warfare quickly made it clear that horses had little place in the modern battlefield. Voss wanted more. He wanted to be where the future of war was decided, in the skies. Voss first entered the German air service as an observer, manning cameras and machine guns in 2-seater planes. But soon he pushed to become a pilot himself. And it was here that his extraordinary natural talent revealed itself. He was daring yet precise, aggressive yet controlled. Unlike Manfred von Richthofen, who was methodical and disciplined, Voss was an instinctive flyer. He seemed to fly by feel, anticipating movements before they happened. His comrades remembered him as charming, boyish, and full of humor, but in combat he was ruthless, attacking with lightning speed and uncanny accuracy. Voss scored his first aerial victory in November 1916. It was the beginning of a string of successes that would make him one of the most feared opponents in the air. At first, he flew the Albatros D-3, a nimble biplane that was notorious for its structural weaknesses. Wings sometimes snapped in dives. Yet Voss handled the fragile aircraft with unmatched skill. By the spring of 1917, his name was already celebrated within the air service. He often flew patrols alone, seeking out enemies with what seemed like reckless confidence. He had a hunter's instinct. He did not waste ammunition, but when the moment was right, he struck with devastating precision. His rise coincided with one of the deadliest times in the air war, the infamous Bloody April of 1917, when the British Royal Flying Corps suffered catastrophic losses. While many German pilots scored their first victories during this month, Voss skyrocketed to the very top. Later, he was assigned the new Fokker Fi triplane, a revolutionary design, precursor of the Dr. E triplane flown by Richthofen himself. The plane wasn't fast, but it was incredibly agile. In Voss's hands, it became more than a machine. It was an extension of his body. British pilots would later swear that he could make the aircraft move in ways no one thought possible. By September 1917, Werner Voss had 48 confirmed victories. At only 20 years old, he was the second most successful German ace after the Red Baron himself. Despite his reputation as a deadly killer in the sky, Werner Voss was remembered as youthful, lively, and even mischievous. In his squadron, he was well liked for his humor and energy. One pilot recalled, "When Voss walked into a room, it came alive. He had that kind of spark, even after days of heavy fighting." Unlike Richthofen, who embodied strict discipline, Voss was more relaxed, almost boyish. He enjoyed chatting with mechanics, joking with comrades, and seemed to carry an air of charm that drew people to him. But in the air, he was different. A lone wolf. He often patrolled alone, something other commanders considered reckless. Yet that was his style. He trusted his instincts, his speed, and his machine. There was also an undercurrent of rivalry with Richthofen. While the Red Baron was a leader and organizer, Voss wanted to prove that his instinctive, daredevil style could achieve just as much. In a letter home, Voss once wrote, "It is a strange feeling, being so young and already deciding over life and death." This line reveals the burden he carried, though outwardly he seemed carefree. September 23, 1917, the final battle. On this afternoon, Voss took off from his airfield in Flanders in his silvery grey Fokker FY, almost still a prototype. Over the front lines he encountered the British 56 Squadron, one of the most elite units of the Royal Flying Corps. Among their pilots were some of Britain's most celebrated aces, James McCudden, Edward Mannock, and Arthur Rhys-Davids. In total, 7 of Britain's best pilots against a single German. Most pilots would have broken away. Voss did the opposite. He dove straight into them. His guns opened up, and instantly the British formation fell into chaos. Eyewitnesses said his triplane seemed to dance in the sky. He rolled, twisted, and turned in ways that defied imagination. The Fokker triplane was agile, but in Voss's hands it seemed almost alive. McCudden later wrote, "It was as if he could dodge bullets." I had never seen an aircraft move like that. The fight lasted around 8 to 10 minutes, an eternity in aerial combat. In that time, Voss managed to heavily damage several British planes. Rhys-Davids admitted he barely escaped with his life. Each time the British tried to encircle him, Voss slipped out, firing bursts that ripped through their aircraft. One pilot later said, "It was as if we weren't fighting a man, but a phantom." But even the greatest reflexes could not last forever. Bullets riddled his triplane, the engine stuttered. Finally, multiple bursts struck home. Before the eyes of his enemies, the Fokker lurched forward, tilted, and plunged behind British lines. Werner Voss was dead. He was just 20 years old. Even his enemies were awed. James McCudden, one of Britain's top aces, wrote, "Voss was the bravest and most skillful pilot I have ever fought. It was the greatest single combat I have ever witnessed." Arthur Rhys-Davids, who may have delivered the final blow, later confessed with regret, "If only I could have brought him down alive." He was an extraordinarily brave young man. Such words from opponents are rare and show just how remarkable Voss's fight was. Werner Voss is often compared with Manfred von Richthofen. Richthofen, methodical, disciplined, almost aristocratic. Voss, daring, impulsive, almost playful. Both achieved staggering numbers in short spans of time. But while Richthofen continued to fight for months more, Voss's life ended in a single, spectacular duel, and that is what turned him into legend. News of Voss's death hit Germany hard. Newspapers hailed him as a hero who fought to the last bullet. Propaganda celebrated his sacrifice, but beyond propaganda, his comrades mourned him as a symbol, young, fearless, tragic. Voss's final battle remains one of the most legendary dogfights in history. A single young man against 7 of the best, and for nearly 10 minutes he held them off. His courage inspired generations of pilots, historians, and writers. In Germany, he became a symbol not just of skill, but of youthful bravery and sacrifice. Werner Voss was a phenomenon, only 20 years old with 48 confirmed victories and a last battle that has lived on for over a century. His story embodies both the fascination and the tragedy of the First World War, a young hero shining brightest in the very moment he lost his life. And perhaps that is the essence of his myth. Werner Voss did not die quietly. He died in a duel so extraordinary that even his enemies were left in awe.